A helpless puppy kept following the officer. When he discovered the reason, he was left in tears. It was a quiet morning in Willow Springs, a small town surrounded by vast fields and thick forests. Officer Ryan Carter, a dedicated lawman with years of experience, was patrolling the outskirts of the town. The golden rays of the early sun filtered through the trees, casting long shadows on the road. To him, this was just another routine day, but fate had something else planned. As he slowed his cruiser near an old hiking trail, Ryan noticed something odd. A tiny Labrador puppy stood in the middle of the road, staring directly at him. His fur was golden but covered in dust, and his eyes held something that sent a chill down Ryan's spine. The officer carefully stepped out of his car, not wanting to scare the little one away. But instead of running, the puppy took a hesitant step forward, his tiny tail wagging just a little. "Hey there, buddy. What are you doing all alone?" Ryan whispered as he crouched down. The puppy let out a soft whimper. It wasn't just lost, it was desperate. Something about the way it looked at him made Ryan's chest tighten. Then, as if trying to communicate the pup nudged his leg and let out a short, pleading bark. At that moment, Ryan made a decision. "All right, buddy, let's figure out what's going on," he murmured. Little did he know following this puppy would lead him to something far beyond his imagination. As Ryan stood up, the puppy immediately followed him, staying close as if afraid to be left behind. It was clear this little guy had a purpose. Ryan decided to see where the pup wanted to go. Without hesitation, it led him towards the dense forest beside the road. With every step, Ryan's instincts screamed that something was wrong. The deeper they walked, the thicker the silence became. No chirping birds, no rustling leaves, just an eerie, unsettling stillness. Then, the puppy suddenly stopped. It let out a whimper and began pawing at the ground near an old fallen tree. "Drunk!" Ryan crouched and brushed away the dry leaves. His breath hitched. Beneath the leaves was a small pink backpack. It was dirty, partially torn, and covered in dust, as if it had been lying there for days. Ryan's heart pounded. "Where did this come from?" he muttered, looking at the puppy. The pup whined, nudging the bag with his nose, as if begging Ryan to look inside. With careful hands, Ryan unzipped the bag. Inside he found a child's sweater, tiny and covered in dirt, a stuffed rabbit, its fur stained and torn, a water bottle still half full. His stomach dropped. This wasn't just a lost dog. Something terrible had happened here. Grabbing his radio, he called the station. "Dispatch, this is Officer Carter. I need an urgent missing persons check, possibly a child around 6 to 8 years old." As he waited for a response, a soft rustling came from behind him. Ryan spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for his holster. But then a sound stopped him in his tracks. A weak, trembling breath. Someone was watching him. Ryan's pulse quickened as he scanned the trees. Then he saw her. He saw a little girl no older than 7 huddled behind a tree trunk. Her tiny body was shaking, her clothes were dirty, and her cheeks were streaked with dried tears. The puppy let out a soft bark and ran to her. She clung to him as if he was the only thing keeping her safe. Ryan's heart clenched. "Hey there, it's okay, you're safe now," he said gently. The girl sniffled but didn't move. Her eyes, wide with fear, darted around the forest. "Did you get lost?" Ryan asked softly. The little girl hesitated, then shook her head. I was hiding," she whispered. Ryan's blood ran cold. "Hiding? From who?" Tears welled in her eyes. She clutched the puppy tighter. "The bad men," she choked out. Ryan felt a chill crawl down his spine. "Bad men? Here?" He took a slow breath, keeping his voice steady. "Where did they go?" The little girl's lower lip trembled. I don't know. But they were looking for me." Ryan's grip on his gun tightened. He knew they couldn't stay here any longer. Just then, a branch snapped nearby. Someone was still out there. Ryan scooped the girl into his arms and signaled the puppy to follow. "We're getting out of here now," he whispered. As they hurried back towards the main road, Ryan's senses were on high alert. The forest felt like it was closing in around them. Another branch cracked. Footsteps. They weren't alone. Ryan didn't stop moving until they reached the road. The moment they stepped into the open, he turned, expecting someone to emerge from the trees. But the forest remained still. Whoever was out there had disappeared. Sirens blared in the distance. Backup was arriving. Ryan looked down at the little girl. She was exhausted, but there was a flicker of relief in her eyes. The puppy sitting beside her wagged its tail weakly. "Good boy," Ryan murmured, scratching behind its ears. If it weren't for this little guy, who knew what would have happened? As officers arrived, Ryan gently placed the girl into the arms of a medic. He crouched beside her, giving her a reassuring smile. "You're safe now. No one's going to hurt you," he promised. The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Can I keep him?" She glanced at the puppy, who was still at her side. Ryan smiled. "I think he already belongs to you." The puppy licked the girl's face, making her giggle softly, the first smile she had shown since they found her. Ryan stood, up, watching as she was taken to safety. But as he turned back to the dark woods, his expression hardened. There were still questions left unanswered. Who were those men? Why was she running? And most importantly, were they still out there, watching? One thing was certain: this wasn't over yet.